You're listening to the Mystics, Monks, Sages and Rock and Rollers show, a podcast that inspires you to seek the meaning of life and examines the latest science and spirit connection. Meaningful content and meaningful interviews. Listen in with Adriana Rosales, author, international speaker, heart math coach and entrepreneur. Adriana turns the science and spirit conversation into a beautiful tapestry of our human story. Tune in today and become inspired from the inside out.
Hey, welcome to our Mystics, Minds, Sages, and Rock and Rollers podcast. And today I'm excited because I get to have a conversation with my good friend, Dr. Pauline Crawford-Opms. And our question is about linking the spirit and science and how we can have a conversation to link both. And then also we're going to touch a little bit on how we can integrate what we understand about linking both and how we can integrate it today with what's going on with COVID-19. So I want to introduce Dr. Pauline Crawford. How are you?
I'm very, very good, and always a pleasure to meet you and have a magical conversation.
Yes, another magical conversation. It's always fun. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about, and we were talking beforehand about where we wanted to take this conversation about bridging spirit and science and why that's important. What is your take on it? Is it really possible? Is it really possible to bridge the two?
Yeah, I think that is the original premise is it possible to have a conversation between science and spirit? And imagining these as two people of any diversity who happen to be very strongly focused on science and the other very strongly spoken on spirit. And maybe they're focusing on today's issue with COVID-19. The scientists may come in with, yeah, but it's the science of the disease. It's, where's the virus come from, the practical parts of it. And you might have a sort of economic scientist as well, who's very much about the facts. And the spirit and the soul is saying, but what about the feelings? What about the message that this current world situation is giving us? Mm-hmm. And there's always been a big division in science and spirit, which is exactly why you very ably brought this whole idea together. So what I think is, how would the two have a conversation, and how do we integrate the aspects of science and spirit in our own lives? Mm-hmm. So for me, I do have the ability to see them hand in hand. I've always been not exactly a scientist, but as a mathematician, I understand the factual side of life. Mm-hmm. If you like, the logic that things need to have a proof statement. But I've also been very engaged with spirit because I believe that there's an energy force that arrives in all of us and that we have in all of our conversations and our points of view. So for me, it's about how do we understand that both stand side by side and great. They can actually take the best value from both sides mm-hmm. and bring them together. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Adriana? It's like we need to know the facts, but we also know to notice the flow and the spirit behind this particular world situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're separate. I don't think that science and spirituality are separate. I think that when Darwin decided to make that defining line between science and religion or spirituality, because for many years people have thought that religion and spirituality go hand in hand, and that's a completely different podcast, right? But I don't believe they are. But when Darwin decided to make that distinction, for a lot of good things happen and a lot of not so great things happen to humanity, where people started thinking that we were separate, that we were separate from nature, that we were separate from from others, that we were divided. And I think that I admire him for having beginning the Darwinism movement, but at the same time it was almost detrimental to what was really happening. And it was a really brave thing he did. But then here we are now debating whether or not spirituality or our spirit or our soul is real, and it's almost comical, because how can it not be?
Well, that's right. And I think it comes down to differences. And we do know that as individuals, we've got a different DNA, we have a different fingerprint, and yet there are some commonalities that we can see in women as opposed to men, as old, young, colors, different races, different sexual. There's so many differences, but the truth is we're all human beings with a spirit. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm. So if you like, the development of the division between science and spirit, which is not in everybody, because we prove it, we both see both together. But I think it's formed over centuries. And now the coronavirus has almost made us pause and look at this. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of people trying to sort it out scientifically. And then you've got other people saying, but this is something which is making us think and feel and ask the question, what is the meaning of life? Mm-hmm. Now, the only way we're going to find out how we bring these aspects together is to have what I consider a magical conversation, because it's about being creative with these differences. And so that, if we look at what I propose as a rule for a magical conversation, is the first point is no judgment. So we're not going to make a judgment about science or spirituality. We're going to say we're all human beings who are facing daily differences now. We're in lockdown, or we want to avoid this virus. We want to be safe. We want to be in connection with other people, and we maybe can't meet them. So we're still creating conversation over online. But we need to have conversations, I think, about where these two aspects are coming together and what's the benefit. Mm-hmm. So a magical conversation for me is always about it. Is what are we going to create that's different, and there's more, and we can combine the best of all aspects. Mm-hmm. And I think science and spirituality have a great marriage ahead, mm-hmm. because we actually need both. Mm-hmm. And like in any marriage, there can be times when we maybe don't get on, or we say, no, that's not right. It can't mm-hmm. possibly be. But we need to listen to the value and that we can build together. And that's what I think the message of today is about. How do we build a new future, as well as solving the illness side of the virus, mm-hmm. is how do we build a future where we can manage such huge pandemics, how we create conversations about our healthcare systems. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to leaving it somebody who's going to make a policy and take control, is let's have a conversation about what might be different. Right. If we had a healthcare system that actually everybody could be part of, right. whatever that means.
I think that this crisis has given us a really wonderful opportunity to definitely stay home with our families and really reassess and rethink yes. about what's really happened. And I don't think that anything has happened to us. I think that we're experiencing something different, and that the epidemics have been around for as long as humanity has been around, and everything is going to fall and rise on how we react to it. Everything is about how we react to it and how we perceive it. So if you perceive it like it's the worst thing that's never happened and it's just awful and we're never going to get out of this, then that is your perception, that's your reality. But if we can yes. see the opportunities in it, it's almost like the opportunity to reset yourself, an opportunity to re-engage, an opportunity to reinvent yourself. I think yes. that is the most amazing opportunity that nature has given us. Whether or not you want to believe yes. all the politics behind how this all started and where it actually generated. I mean, that's a whole different podcast. But it really is about what can work for us now. What kind of perspective can we have that is an empowering perspective, and then
Yes.
what kind of new life am I going to engage in moving forward? Because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and if you continue to watch the news, and if you continue to be on that cycle of chaos being pushed at us every day,
Yes.
then it's really unfortunate, because you're going to miss the biggest opportunity we've ever had in the last 100 years anyways, right? So I encourage people to really look at it as an opportunity to reset and to have conversations. Get online, start a podcast,
Yes.
start a conversation, start a magical conversation with someone else, and let's dialogue. Let's dialogue about what it means to be a human being, in a spirit in a human body, and how we can integrate the science that we see all around us, that we see evolving, and how we can integrate it with who we truly are, which is a spirit at the end.
That's right. And for any of us who've been present when our loved ones have passed on, you know that the body is still there, but there's spirit has gone. I remember when my mother died, and she was 93. She was a beautiful soul, and I could see she looked perfectly okay, but the spirit had gone. It was somewhere, and it doesn't matter where it is. This is whatever religion that we have or beliefs.
Yeah.
There is a difference between being alive and not being alive. And yes, there's a scientific side to it, but there's that magical unknown. And I think one of the things that we're dealing with at the moment is the unknown. What is the unknown? And is the unknown a gift of possibility and potential, or is it a fearsome drain on our energy? And that's something that we have to have a conversation with ourselves. That having a conversation with ourselves as well as with other people is really important.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be hard on yourself. Don't be judgmental on yourself.
Yes, that's
and
important.
If you feel anger rising or frustration or whatever it is, do something. Meditate, dance, follow Qigong with JC. Go and have a glass of orange juice. Yes, we are in lockdown, but we still have the space here.
Yes. I know earlier you were telling me that you did the Qigong class with JC Cox. So I'm gonna put the link in the notes, so you all can visit his webpage and see how he's doing these amazing classes and teaching people Qigong. So, and that's I agree with you, Dr. Pauline, that it's important to refocus our energy, because right now there is this war. I call it the information war, where the powers that be are wanting your attention. Everybody wants your attention, and that attention is typically going to go wherever the violence is, wherever the wars are, wherever the drama is, wherever the negativity is, because we're biologically designed that way, right? And I encourage everyone listening that we have to really take control of where our attention goes. And even this conversation that Dr. Pauline and I are having today is really about us taking charge of the narrative of our lives. We're taking charge of the conversation, this magical conversation about how we can bridge spirit and science together. We're taking the lead on the kind of information that we want out, that we want to share. And for both of us, it's about being that positive influence for anyone that is tuning in. And I think that's important.
It is, and my favorite metaphor at the moment behind me in my picture is this idea of the lighthouse. The lighthouse is very solid and strong in the storm. So in that picture, the sea, which is our COVID-19 world, is very stormy. It's very torturous. We watch the news and we see the figures going up, and you hear about somebody dying, and you think, oh my God, this is real. But the sea can be calm. And we are the lighthouse, and the lighthouse keeper is inside the lighthouse, shining the light for danger. Don't come too near to crash on the rocks, but sail smoothly away. Mm-hmm. So if we know our own message, if we can be sure about our own spirit in the body that we have, and honor that first, and then honor the spirit in somebody else's body, and then share in a conversation your value and listen to their value. So there are some very simple things we can do But we do need to honor our differences, because when we're in this lockdown situation, there are pressures that come, and occasionally we might need to let off a bit of steam.
Yeah.
Just make sure the steam doesn't hit somebody else. That's the trick.
Yes. I'm getting used to being home and with my children and my husband, and I'm getting to figure out my husband's routine and my children's routine, and there's some moments where I'm just frustrated with, I'm like, oh my God, like really, because I'm not used to being home all the time, and so there's a lot of work that I need to do to
yes,
to figure it out, and that's okay. I think you really said something really important, which is don't judge yourself, and don't be so hard on yourself, because this is a transition period, and it's fine. We're gonna be fine.
We are going to be fine. Excuse me. We are going to be fine, and I think one of the interesting things is that my 3 guidelines, which are no judgment, no anger, no coercion, is all about ourselves. So I think a lot of people, and I count myself like this as well. Some days I wake up and I think, I judge myself about what have I not done. Should I do more? And then I think, no, it's okay. This is a moment in time which is monumentally different to anything in our lifetimes, and therefore it's very important to do stuff but not to do stuff. Don't say, oh, have a to-do list, but if at the end of the day you didn't quite make it all, be grateful for what you did do and what happened, and just put it on the next day. Keep on working on new ways of being. Like you say, you've got your kids home, I've got my husband and my dog, take the dog for a walk, feed my husband, break up the schedule of the day with stuff that maybe don't usually do, but then be grateful for it and have that conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that I haven't necessarily believed this all my life, but when I really understood about, we are a human body with a spirit. The spirit is actually the thing that will be there forever. So however much we integrate it with science, for me, that's the continual flow of life is our spirit. And they often say, we get employed for a job for our skills, but we get fired for our attitude. That's our spirit going wrong.
That's true.
And I think this is what the pandemic is teaching us. If we want to take a lesson, is to pause and be patient and be ourselves and be okay about being ourselves. And you're a mum now. I'm a mum, but my kids are older and my grandkids are away, but you've got a young child, and you have to understand what that role is. But you're a businesswoman as well, and a wife, and a wonderful human being, of course. But we are able to adjust to any circumstance that possible. And this is not going to be the worst thing that's ever happened in our life. Maybe. There may be other things beyond that. This is just preparing ourselves for. So we need to look at what is the meaning of life. And for me, that's that deep conversation between science and spirit.
It's a great time to reflect on that, because I think that is the most important question humanity has ever had. And that is, where did we come from? Why are we here? Who are we? And I think we can do a whole podcast on that question alone. But yeah, Dr. Pauline, I want to thank you for spending this time with me on Saturday for this podcast. And this will be my first podcast that I'm launching today. So I will definitely make sure that, thank you. And I want to leave everyone with I'm hoping that with this information, this magical conversation that both Dr. Pauline and I had will help you through this time with the COVID-19 experience we're all experiencing together on the planet, and that you definitely take into consideration a lot of the tips and tools that we discussed, and maybe not, and that's okay too. It's really just about allowing and not judging ourselves and just making it through with what we have. And I want to leave Dr. Pauline with her final comments on how we can bridge science and spirit, and what she wants to leave the audience with.
Well, I think the main thing is to remember that you can pause. You know, if you're on the computer and you're watching something, you can always pause it, where you can say pause in your life. So have this little tag in your life saying, if something's not going right in this current situation, I can pause and I can have a little conversation with myself, which says, I'm okay and I'm going to be okay. And then you can press the pause button again and go back into life. And that's really important, because in that pause, we can center ourselves and we can actually gain that groundedness that we need to carry on any magical conversation. And just remember, don't judge yourself. Avoid your anger and frustration by dancing or singing or doing something joyful. And don't worry about getting everything done in the day. Just do what you can do best, and that will be enough.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Pauline. So I hope to have you on the podcast again and talking about different subjects, because you have a plethora of wisdom, and I look forward to chatting again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.